What do we think are the best strategy for early movers in 5G? And what are the risks involved, perhaps, in going early? Now, we have two North American operators here. It's probably fair. Robert, if I can start with yourself. I mean, why move early? What's the advantage here?
Well, one of the interesting things for us is the standards were being contributed to from our company. We were, ink dry and in market in 6 months, and that's not typical, right? So we are definitely forward pushing to be early and first in market. That gives us a competitive advantage. Our strength is in our mobility services, and that's where we went first. I do think you learn a lot when you do that as well, right? You're able to iterate and grow kind of your team, your capability, your knowledge about what to look out for as you go forward. From there, I think you want to really listen to your customer in the business side or enterprise side. I think that's where the innovation comes from, right? They want to talk about 5G, what it can do for them. And I think putting that investment down early with customers and really listening, that's where you get a quick return and get the most benefit out of it.
Mike, what about Verizon?
Sure, definitely a strategy. Being first is important. We've got a lot of knowledge out of the system. For those of you who've been around for a little while, we had the largest commercial trial in 2017, followed by a commercial deployment in 2018, with real customers paying money for the service. So that's enabled the engineers, enabled to build the service, and that's also allowed us, because when you deploy a commercial system that early, you know what it takes to go into the local communities, zoning boards, in order to implement what you need to implement. And lastly, it also allows you to just influence the whole ecosystem. We've been very aggressive creating what we call our 5G labs, because building the network's fine, but the question is, do you have the ecosystem to go along to it? So we have created the 5G labs to bring both the innovators and the companies together, really get this thing cooking, to get those applications going. Okay.
Arnaud, perhaps we can bring Europe into play here.
I'm not sure that the race is the right things to do, because we already have a notion of 4G as ambient connectivity, and we invest a lot in fiber 4G. So the real question is which difference of quality of experience we can achieve for our customer when we introduce 5G. So in that sense, it's more useful to have first a pre-commercial step, and we are doing that as a range in Europe with 17 5G orange cities. At the arrival of the first smartphone, you can see on our booth, live, and with that you can really design something where you feel a difference when you introduce it on the market. And that's why on enhanced mobile broadband we think we need this pre-commercial and then this commercial phase in 2020. It's not the same for when you have a rupture, a revolution, like we have on the 26 GHz with centimeter wave, when you can do a fiber-like experience, or rupture when you can, with a new core network, really have a full specialized services for your B2B customers. So we are very humble on that, and we want really to have the time of a learning curve. When we introduce 5G, the customer will feel the difference.
The three of you together, you represent very large CSPs with a lot of resource, internal resource. What about the many service providers who are a lot smaller, can't afford to move fast? Is there an alternative strategy for them, the ones who are kind of wait and see?
I mean, that is the way it played out with LTE and the other technologies. So that path has certainly been gone down before. And they tend to, smaller providers, they communicate with you and they take learnings. And then, most importantly, whenever you're introducing a new technology, I mean, personally, I've been through three versions of this: 2G, 3G, 4G, now 5G coming up. The software we work with with the vendors, a lot of that can be ported to the other carriers, and you have to go through some of the learning pains of basically working on the code to make it a usable system. So they will get the benefit of that.
Arnaud, any advice for the smaller operators?
We are operating in many countries, so we have the chance to be able to test any vendors, any kind of solutions. And even here on the booth, you can see many solutions up and working on live networks. So for us, it's really to keep this interoperability, to have best of breed, and really to take time to build this telco-grade infrastructure that we will definitely need if we want to give access to all sectors of economy on 5G. It will take time, but the standard is there. We have a good one, just one worldwide perspective. It's first time we have just one standard. So we really want to benefit from that in the next decade, 2020, 2030.
Yeah. Robert, I mean, integration challenges are quite considerable. When you make this move to 5G, there's obviously different strategies and ways to do this, but you know, can we minimize the problem somehow?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is get on the evolution path, right? So take advantage of all the technology that is out there today on the LTE network and evolve it to an experience that a customer is going to resonate with. And the smaller CSP question there, I think they need to be attuned to what's happening. Like the last several years, we've been on this software and virtualization of our core. 75% of our network now is software-based, not network-based. That gives us a ton of flexibility. And going back to the MEC application, that software exists today on LTE. So we talk about 5G, how fast is it, ultra-low latency, how secure it is, and how it's going to differentiate. When it comes down to it, it's the software that's inside that's giving them the ability to control these experiences.
And Caroline, we're also seeing the emergence of some greenfield operators who haven't got any legacy equipment to worry about, such as Rakuten, who you know very well.
Yep, that's true. And they had the advantage of starting a greenfield, no legacy. So they launched a cloud-native network. And actually Wednesday, their CEO is going to formally announce this. And we got a lot of learning. We've been working with them for a long time, last 8 months to get this going. We got a lot of learning what's the right thing to do, and it's never always gonna be easy. But clearly, I think the fact that once it's cloud native, you really run it more like an IT. So the automation is built in from day one. You don't have the legacy OSS BSS. This really is targeted to day one as a service-oriented network. I think that this is, to us, all of our ecosystem, we can learn a lot from that.
Great. Should we move on to another quick fire round? Because I know you love it so much. Let's get the clock ready. And we'll move from the strategies to some of the markets and the vertical markets. What I'd like to ask now is, which use cases and markets or industries do we see as having the greatest leverage from 5G? Unfair to start with Justin again, so let's move it down to Robert if we can. And Robert, we're going to get the clock on you to start with. But you're our enterprise expert on the panel, so what are the markets we think are going to benefit from 5G?
Well, from the product side, we've had several announcements recently. We announced AT&T Stadium as the first connected 5G stadium. We actually have our system in place already. Rush Hospital in the healthcare, we're going to turn that up here shortly, but another announcement. Leading customers in every vertical on this planet want to lead their space. They're not sure what they're actually going to do and light up their use cases, but they're calling in and they're talking to us about what those are. Manufacturing, we announced Samsung Austin Semiconductor as another first 5G manufacturing facility. And as you walk the floor of MWC, just about every other booth has a manufacturing robot arm that's doing low latency edge solutions. What's exciting about that relationship for us is we launched it, we said we're going to be the first, we're putting the tech in, and with them, a company like that has the ability to produce the tech, it's going to really throw off some really interesting use cases. But from there, I think hospitality, sports, as Carolyn mentioned, down the line.
Great. I'm afraid the clock ran out of time, though.
I know,
we have to mark it down as a minus one there. We'll settle up later. But great answer. Thank you very much. Arnaud, what about the use cases and markets we're likely to see?
In fact, this question, for me, I asked it to Orange Business Services. It's a big part of our company today, so they have a chance to work with each sector of economy from a long time. And first, what was very useful was to start to put some 4G, 5G in advance in some places for this sector of economy to come and to test. So we did that for automotive, where they have been able to play with 4G, 5G to see a difference. We did that for industry, on a production side to play and to see what are the difference. We are doing right now that thanks to some European funds on healthcare as well. on media sector and so on. So we try each type. Of course, some of them are a bit more advanced to understand what they want to do with this connectivity, but what they need is as well the objects. So for to really put 4G, 5G connectivity in, and we know that will take some time. So that's why we need really to understand what is generic and what will be specific to each sector.
I see we have suddenly found a buzzer.
It's a good one.
It sounds suspiciously like someone I know at the back here.
So Mr. Daniels, we went back to the judges and we had to go back and credit AT&T with 25 unused seconds. So their second answer was appropriate. Orange Communications, strong content, but a little bit of a penalty there.
Look at that, live judging. Thank you.
He's even got a camera as well. Can't believe it. Mike, use cases. Sure.
Well,
You can't do worse. Come on.
I'll tell you, some people have called this the fourth industrial revolution. I don't think that's very far off because this is going to hit all sorts of entities. It's almost like you can pick your vertical that you're going to go down. I mean, look at education. I mean, it can turn education on its end to be able to show people things without leaving the classroom. We talked about manufacturing. You talk about real-time enterprises with the slice of the network. Nobody's really talked about the slices of the network yet. The fact that when you get to a standalone core, you can actually individualize pricing plans, characteristics for each individual user. So you can have 100 million slices out there if you need to. So don't forget, that is a big part of 5G, and you're going to see that impact all sorts of verticals. You got autonomous vehicles, you got medical, you got manufacturing, you got healthcare, and the list goes on and on. So this is going to be really exciting because these companies are out innovating with us right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. And time to spare. Good time to spare. Lovely. Caroline, same to you. What are the use cases in industries, markets that we think are going to be the real beneficiaries of 5G?
Actually, what we're seeing right now is actually cloud gaming, believe it or not. There is we've been actually working with several cloud gaming providers. If you come to our booth, you'll see them. And we believe that the console is going to go away. A lot of these games are actually going to come, instead of running the cloud, click close to the cloud, give you the user experience without relying on an expensive console. So many of the game makers are working with us, and we're talking to them about how to make that very seamless experience. The other one I have agreed is sports. It's a smart venue. Actually, I invited Hilton Worldwide to come and be our guest. Would love to hear from them. How do you, because I spend a lot of time on the road, and I really wanted the people, if I go into a frequent guest of that hotel chain, I would like them to know who I am and give me personalized service, and not every single time have to call them and say, give me my bathrobe. They should have known that. So that's what I like to see.
Lovely. Bang on the button. Bang on the button. Just a hard act to follow.
Yeah, I think
but you're going to give it best shot. Use cases and markets for 5G.
Actually, I'm just waiting for the timer to start.
Yeah, don't mess up the time.
Yeah. So I think, I think we've covered many of them, and there's a lot. There's a lot of talk and noise in the market about AR, VR, and autonomous vehicles. I think some of these use cases are further out in the distance. The real value, where I see the real value being created is actually in some of these B2B and B2C use cases where we're solving immediate business problems. And what I would say is, just back to some of the earlier conversation, it comes when you take an ecosystem approach. So you start with a customer, you bring in the ecosystem between the operator, a partner like us, bring in Intel's technology, and we bring together a real solution. And I think that's where we're going to start to see the traction earliest. It may not be the things that are catchy for press headlines, but it's some of these real-world business applications. That's why smart venues are taking off, because the ROI exists. It's why some of the enterprise customers with logistics or manufacturing are seeing value.
We'll give you that. We'll give you that. Thank you, Justin. Thanks to everyone for that. Coming on to the all-important return on investment, because we're all businesses. Is it possible, as we make this 5G journey, is it possible to smooth out our CapEx and OpEx impact? Can we eliminate some of these spikes that we get in this industry? There's cellular generations, this 10-year life cycle that we always go on. Is this something we live with, or is this something that we can work to reduce? Mike, please.
Sure. You know, I think we've actually taken pride in smoothing out our CapEx. If you look at our past history over the past 10, 15 years, we've actually been pretty smooth. That's actually one of the reasons we've been able to stay very consistent with our offering, albeit upgrading existing architecture and always investing in the future. So when you look at our financials and how we've done over the past number of years, we've actually been fairly smooth and kept it sort of in line with what you would expect. So,
Arnaud, what do you think?
Same, we see quite a smooth transition. In fact, when you look to a return of investment, the key things is to avoid to have spectrum fragmentation. That means one spectrum from one usage. So really to be able to add a different usage on the same public network and then to offer that to everyone, because it's that way that you can really deploy largely with a good coverage in your country.
Yeah, I think as a product guy with a couple of network guys in here, I think we would love nothing more to spend tons and tons of capital to build the next G. The practical matter is, in a capital company like ourselves, capital-intensive company, when you're throwing off $20 billion of capex, you got to keep it really smooth. And so. That's one thing we pride ourselves at AT&T. We manufacture a very solid free cash flow line, and we're very diligent about that. Mike said it earlier, the LTE network is not going away when 5G shows up. There is a lot of runway left there. So we're sprinkling in the technology and investing in the future, but also building out the LTE capability to give customers an experience that they want.
Right. Let's have another quick fire round, because we want to move on. We want to move on and talk to our industry guests here. Arnaud, perhaps we can start to you. We'll come around Arnaud, Mike, Caroline, and go back around again. When can we see payback? When can we expect payback? What is the investment cycle for 5G likely to be? Arnaud, please give it a shot.
In fact, today we are investing more in fiber and 4G. So we will have, as we mentioned, a smooth transition to that. So for us, what is important, that it will generate more consumer, business customer on our network, more type of objects. And of course, for that, we really need, and definitely, as mentioned, change a bit the technology to make sure that we have the right quality of services for each type of object, for each type of sector, for each business process. And then return of investment will come. For sure.
Brilliant. Thank you.
For the previous infraction, Orange Communications. Orange Communications is back in the green.
Mike, return on investment and payback.
I mean, certainly right now, I mean, the return on investment's happening right now. Again, we have live commercial service we have since October, so that's actually already started for us. Really what's going to help it happen, though, is our network is a multi-purpose network. So we're going to have more than just mobility. We're going to have more than just home. We're going to have IoT and other devices in there. So you're going to have a lot of vehicles that are going to be pitching in their business model to help return the investment as quickly as possible. So we're just expecting that to explode. You look at the way 5G is designed, it's not just designed for a smartphone. It's designed for a deep density of IoT devices. And you're going to start to see that explode.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mike. Well in the time, as you can see from the clock. Well in the time. Caroline.
So I would like to see is have a different ways of a business model. There's CapEx you have to spend. You definitely have to set up towers and so on. But just like Mike said, that the network now is not just serving smartphone. The more we can get enterprise and come in and pitch in and pay for some of these, the more we can work closely with the cloud service providers. They actually probably had incentive to also make the network run well. I sit on the TIP board, and the TIP is trying to do that, is trying to bring the IT practice, the IT know-how, and the monetization onto the network so that the network ecosystem do not just pay and hope for the monthly payoff, but rather actually utilizing the IT side, the cloud side, to make the entire ROI come to fruition. So I strongly like to see that aspect being called out in 5G.
Great. More support for TIP as well, please. More support for TIP. Justin, payback and return on investment. What's your thoughts?
I think the model, the IT model, is very different. And as we're seeing the evolution, we're starting to see customers talk to us differently about their investment cycle. The IT model, if you think about it, tends to be on a 3 to 4 year refresh. Tends to be very linked to the application and the service. So that's going to create some different pressures, some different needs for a lot of our operators. The other side of that is we have solutions like GreenLake, which are basically consumption as a service. So as you consume, you grow. As you grow, you consume more. And that flexibility, we talk a lot about CapEx to OpEx, but I think it's the flexibility, that cloud-like model that allows you to be more nimble, are things that we're going to have to see, particularly as we go back and talk about some of the smaller operators that may not be able to make that full investment in infrastructure up front, but need to be able to follow a business case or an opportunity within a vertical market in their specific geography. Those types of models and some of the innovations we're bringing there, we think are compelling.
Excellent. Bang on the button. Robert, last but not least.
For us at AT&T, we have a 10-year business case that we sign up for, multi-billions of dollars of investment, long-range planning. And with that, the reality is we manage by the quarter. And some of the business models that are unique now that are coming out are more partner-based. So we're open-minded about different go-to-market models between our companies. And when we find customers that have, a solution in mind or an outcome they're trying to solve for, that's usually when we get the quickest way to a return, where we solve a business outcome with a partner with multiple solutions in there. So I would say that, quickly we've got a long-range view of this, but we try to be smart and get that return sooner rather than later.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Robert. That's it for our quick fire round. Thank you very much. Great insights.